This is Optimal Health Daily, episode 151. Not Afraid of the Big Bad Carb by Neghar Fonooni of negharfonooni.com. And I'm Dr. Neil. Hey there, happy Monday, happy day before Valentine's Day. Welcome back to Optimal Health Daily, where I simply read to you from the best health and fitness blogs for free. I cover fitness, nutrition, stress management, weight management, and lots more. Just like a big audiobook, but from a bunch of different authors. I wanted to thank you all again for your well wishes with regards to my mom's health. I'll be honest, she went back to work and I was very nervous about that. But she's doing well, she's feeling great, she's in good spirits as always. So again, thank you for your well wishes. All right, let's jump into today's post and start optimizing your life. Not Afraid of the Big Bad Carb by Neghar Fonooni of negharfonooni.com. For the past month, I've been traveling around the Southern Hemisphere. I started in Sydney, Australia, and from there have been to Bali, Melbourne, Auckland, New Zealand, and Queenstown, New Zealand. All the while, I've only been casually conscious of my food habits. Whereas in the past, I would have vowed to spend this month-long trip eating strict paleo or fasting on a rigid schedule, I'm keenly aware of how much I've grown on the nutritional front, even just in the last year or so. Point in fact, I have eaten some type of bread product or starchy carb every single day since I left LA for Sydney. Every day. I've also been doing my best to hydrate, exercise, and consume veggies and protein, but the wine has been flowing and the carbs have been plentiful. Breaky wrap in Bondi Beach? Don't mind if I do. Croissants and coffee in Ubud, Bali? Why yes, thank you. No regrets, no fear, no anxiety that if I eat too many carbs, I'll come home in 2 weeks' time bloated and puffy and unworthy of love. No starving myself the next day or punishing myself with extra fitness to burn off my indulgences. Truth be told, this level of nutritional healing is relatively new for me. While I began to heal from obsessive dieting in 2010, it's only been 2 years, give or take, since I've stopped intermittently dieting. So this carb thing, it's kind of a new trend for me, dating back to roughly 7 months ago when I started doing CrossFit. In the time I started training 2 to 4 times per week at Deuce Garage in Venice Beach, I found myself gradually increasing my carb intake. And by gradually, I mean I eat carbs every single day, unapologetically, fearlessly, happily. As a reformed dieter and recovering perfectionist, I'd spent so much of my adult life in hardcore anti-carb mode, foregoing burritos for burrito bowls, tacos for lettuce wraps, and sandwiches for salads. Now don't get me wrong, it wasn't really a sacrifice. I absolutely love burrito bowls, lettuce wraps, and salads. The problem wasn't that I opted for delicious lower carb meals, it was that I did so out of fear and perceived necessity. There were times when I wanted a burrito so effing bad, and I just wouldn't let myself have it, because carbs. I had become so accustomed to a low carb lifestyle that the mere thought of eating a sandwich or a burrito did not even seem logical to me. It might sound ridiculous to some, but I think many can actually relate to this sentiment. Fear of carbs is not an insignificant condition. On some level, I've always known that I wanted carbs, but it wasn't until I started doing CrossFit that I realized how much I needed carbs and how much more tolerant towards them I could actually be. I found myself waking up so hungry, which was a new phenomenon for me, and never feeling full enough after meals. I discovered that I was having a terribly difficult time recovering from CrossFit workouts, and I was sore all the time. My body needed carbs, but my brain had been conditioned to believe otherwise. So out of the dual desire to let go of an obsessive behavior and to recover more effectively from my training sessions, I began to dip my toes ever so gingerly into the carb pool. I started eating sweet potatoes with my breakfast and plantains with my dinner. I began having a handful of chocolate almonds after dinner and throwing powdered sweet potato into my protein shakes. I felt so good and so much more nourished that I decided to take a leap. What if, when we had our weekly family trip to our favorite Mexican joint, I ordered a burrito instead of my usual burrito bowl? What would happen? Culinary satisfaction, that's what. I didn't magically gain body fat overnight. I didn't fall off the rails and start consuming every other indulgent food in sight. I didn't berate or castigate myself. My world didn't implode. Nothing actually happened. In fact, I discovered through self-experimentation that I could consume a moderate amount of grains without any detrimental effect to my physical body. And with a little more exposure and a lot more permission, I found there was no detrimental effect to my mental or emotional body either. I wasn't afraid of carbs anymore. For me, this was huge. It meant that no food, other than those that I have allergic or adverse reactions to, was off limits for me anymore. And it also meant that I felt 1,000,000 times better during my workouts and recovered from them more effortlessly. Listen, I'm not advocating the consumption of burritos, although I guess on some level I am because burritos are spectacular. I'm not saying that everyone should eat bread or pasta or even sweet potatoes. I'm not even saying that everyone needs to eat more carbs. What I am advocating is an intuitive and introspective connection to your own body, the ability and awareness to make your own choices about food. What I am saying is that food is just food. Delicious, exciting, and culturally driven to be sure, but just food nonetheless. It's powerless. It has no dominion over us, which means that having fear and anxiety over it is totally our own preoccupation. There isn't a dictatorial carb demon somewhere laughing maniacally on the throne of his burrito-filled underworld, ruling over our culinary predilections. The fear, the anxiety, the restriction, the guilt, it all belongs to us. And isn't that great news? It means that we have the power to change it. We have the ability to cultivate the tools necessary to alter that perspective, to overcome our fear of carbs or any other food we've deemed off limits. Again, I'm not urging you to stop what you're doing and run to your nearest burrito dispenser. Maybe that's not what's best for you. Only you can decide what fits your lifestyle and dietary needs. I am, however, suggesting a more casual, free, inclusive approach to food whenever possible. Because here's the thing. Choosing not to eat something because it's not really appealing to us, or gives us a negative physical reaction, or we find it just not worth it, that's actually great. That means we're in touch with our food habits and practicing discernment. But abstaining from something out of perceived necessity, fear, or anxiety, that's not discernment. It's imprisonment. All we need to start breaking free from that food restriction prison is a little bit of permission. Permission to eat in a way that works for you, rather than adhere to rules and regulations that aren't truly serving you. You just listened to the post titled, Not Afraid of the Big Bad Carb by Neghar Fonooni of negharfonooni.com. The other day in class, it was so sweet. One of my students brought cookies for each of her colleagues and for me. She carefully stacked 3 cookies for us each in a staggered pattern on top of a purple paper plate, gently wrapped in saran wrap to protect any bugs from getting at them. Just by looking at the cookies, I could tell this was a unique recipe. Didn't quite have the texture that most cookies have. I could tell there was some grain in it. I couldn't tell if it was oatmeal or maybe she used quinoa or something like that. But when I took a bite, it was definitely noticeable. Don't get me wrong, it was delicious, and I think she used blueberries instead of raisins. Oh, yes, definitely very, very tasty. But the student asked me before I took a bite, Dr. Neal, will you eat these cookies? And I said, why do you ask? And she said, well, you're a nutrition instructor, and so I figured you'd probably stay away from things like that. And so I announced to the room, I said, you know what? I actually eat everything. It really doesn't matter. And they all gasped. I'm sure you can imagine. That's like a sin in nutrition. In fact, my students are far more strict with their diets than I am. Even with all of my knowledge, I know better. I know that if we consume foods in moderation, everything can be enjoyed. And that's what I told them. They all looked at me and nodded. Nobody had a rebuttal. Maybe they're just scared of me. I don't know. But that's what I tell myself, and that's what I tell everybody I meet. That's what the studies are showing. So I love this post from Ms. Fonooni. She hit it right on the head. Believe it or not, we're almost halfway through the month, which means our next book giveaway is coming up soon. On the first of every month, we give a book to a random person on our mailing list. So if you want to be entered into the raffle, you just need to be part of our weekly newsletter. You can join really quickly by texting the word Batman to the number 44222. Or you can enter your email address at our site, oldpodcast.com. Either way works just fine, and you'll be entered into the drawing every month as long as you're on the email list. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow where your optimal life awaits.
Hello, Life Optimizer. This is Justin Malik, creator and producer of this show and Optimal Living Daily, the brother podcast of this one. Literally, I'm Dr. Neal's brother. If you like the format of this show, you'll love Optimal Living Daily too, where I also read to you from blogs, but cover other topics like personal development, finance, and minimalism from bloggers like Derek Sivers, The Minimalists, Zen Habits, and many more. So for more amazing content read to you for free, come subscribe to Optimal Living Daily too, and together we'll optimize your life.
You've been listening to Optimal Health Daily. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on each new episode, and head to oldpodcast.com. That's oldpodcast.com for a free gift, as well as more actionable tips and resources to help you maximize your potential. Thanks for joining us, and remember, your optimal life awaits.